Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. I'm recording this on Saturday afternoon, so the 26th, and this is just sort of, I've been asked to do this by Spirit. There's some messages that they want to pass along at this time. The invasion of Russia in Ukraine is throwing the world sort of energetically into a state. Okay, so you have an increase in fear. You have, worry. People are scared. Um, People are being impacted around the world, particularly people who have some sort of a heritage connected to that part of the world. Because even though there are a lot of us who really don't have significant or specific ties to Ukraine that we kind of on an ongoing basis stay connected to. Okay, so I am assuming based on my grandparents' families that I have relatives somewhere in Ukraine. But this is also what I know. My daughters, when you look at my daughters, their genetic heritage, if you will, is Austrian, Ukrainian, Russian, Polish. That area of the world is so interconnected. And the fact that you sort of literally have brother attacking brother um, is definitely a real cause for concern. And of course, now you have other countries who, were, oh, no, we don't need to be part of NATO, are going, oh, wow, maybe we should be part of NATO. This is not good. And part of the reason for that, I suspect, is because, first you had, and listen, there was a lot of other crazy people in power over the course of the history of the planet. This is sort of not unique to this time frame. But you had somebody in office in the United States who kind of tossed all the norms out the window. And I mean, you could see that part of what was going on was just incredible, incredible levels of corruption. And that in some ways seems to have emboldened what is going on with the Tsar of Russia. Okay. Now, there have been a lot of reports that he's not in good shape, that maybe there's just been a little too much isolation. Maybe he's been, reading and believing too much of his own press. But they're saying that he seems to be kind of mentally, maybe with not kind of the clarity that he at one time presented. So I want to take a look, but this is going to be, I think, a little bit more from the perspective of, um, a higher elevation, right? I want to see sort of what spirit can tell us about this time that we're in, because of course we all know that this is a really, really hard time. And I mean, it's not just that situation. There is, all kinds of stuff going on, and people's emotions are so revved up. Um, and there needs to be sort of a kind of a calming so that things can be seen with clarity as opposed to sort of a lot of this sort of very sudden like reaction. Okay. So I'm going to use my cards, but I have to, tell you that this is probably more channeled. Well, of course, all my readings are channeled to some degree or another, but this is probably going to be more channeled. So, we'll see what the cards have to say, but, you know. So what I want to look at right now is I just want to look at the overarching situation in that part of the world. Um, there are countries that are neighbors to Russia who are saying, yep, nope, this is a bridge too far. We're not going to support this. You have the NATO group really moving quite aggressively. Putin and Lavrov and have had personal sanctions put against them. That's like never happened before. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on that is really kind of pushing back against, I think, what Vlad thought was going to happen. Because let's face it, he took Crimea and like really nobody caused a big stink about it. I mean, yeah, people yelled and screamed and whatever, but things settled down and he just sort of moved on in and and then you have people like the former guy saying, well, I don't know, they seem to be really happy, there. I don't know why everybody's screaming they should go back to Ukraine. So let's just take a look and see what we can find out, okay? Come on down. I have a question. Let's give it one more shuffle. And we're going to do it kind of this way. Message world events, message world events, message world events. Okay. So at this point in time, what you have is like truly, it really is kind of a struggle between high consciousness and lower consciousness, good and evil, if you will. So what you have is an increasing part of the population, globally I'm speaking, that really want things to be on a level playing field. They want everybody to have freedom. They want everybody to have enough. There is a sense that there has been so much greed and so much corruption, and it's politics, it's corporations, whatever. But there's just been so much of it now that we are in a place where we, as a society, as a civilization, and frankly the planet, are really kind of struggling because it's gone too far. Everything has just gone too far. So on the one hand, you have this sense of, harmony. We need to come together. Really, the earth is nothing more than a village, right? We are so interconnected now. And you have this other side who is like, but I want to take what I want to take, and I'm going to take it because that's just how I feel, and I'm entitled, and I should do that. And that side, that dynamic, is feeling so threatened. It is feeling so attacked. And the more it feels that way, and listen, this goes across the board. Is this big corporations who are realizing that they got to really change their tune because the world is moving on? Is that truckers who feel they're not being listened to? Is that miners in the United States who feel forgotten? It's everywhere. This sense of, but I'm not getting what I want, and therefore I am going to aggressively push back and take what I want. But meanwhile, the overriding energy is kind of like, yeah, but you know what? We really need to move away from that sort of dynamic because it's not serving us. It's not taking us to a higher level. It's not taking us to a better place. And so where we sit now is that time kind of it's not judgment, but it is that time of evaluation. It is that time of looking at where we are and where we want to go. If you have been asking yourself, why there have been so many light workers on the planet right now, why are so many of us really having our gifts and our skills amplified? and sort of becoming far more visible. And whether we're doing that quietly and privately or in a broader way, there is that movement towards bringing the higher vibrational sort of assets of the world into the fore and moving away from this sort of like really like dictator like ship attitude, okay? And it's like it's everywhere. It's corporations saying, well, we don't care about the employees because we have a profit margin. It's just everywhere. And what is happening is slowly but surely there is this movement towards a different kind of almost like value system on the planet. But the light workers are here not only because, who got into office, but because globally there is so much shifting and changing. And as I've said, the more that lower vibration energy and attitude feels threatened, the more they push back. And so that's sort of what you have going on globally. And it's certainly what you have going on right now in Russia and Ukraine. Russia wants what it wants because it wants it, and he is that czar has sort of rewritten history, right? He's looking at things from a very kind of weird perspective, and he's having to be fact checked left, right, and center. Now he has that core of people around him, and you think, you know what? I don't know, they're never going to rise up against him. They're just going to keep sitting there and nodding their head. I'm not actually so sure about that. And I'm not actually so sure that he has all of the support that he thinks he has. The more kind of erratic or childlike or reactionary his behavior is, the more you have people looking around and kind of going, wait a minute, maybe we need to somehow, um, you know, somehow save ourselves. I'm sorry. Because you know what? That's exactly their mentality, right? It's like, um, he's putting a lot of people's lifestyles in jeopardy. And while may be loyal, there's definitely other energy around him that is not as supportive as he thinks it is. And that is whether it is about other countries reacting or his own country reacting or the people who are closer and closer into that inner circle reacting. In a kind of strange way, this situation is going to create an environment where people really have to stop and look and evaluate what has been lost from the past. And listen, I'm not painting no rosy picture about nothing from previous decades or centuries for that matter. But what I am saying is that there was sort of more of a code that was lived by. And people are looking now and they're saying, how on earth did that completely disintegrate? How did it completely implode on us? And there is, a desire now to bring back that harmony and that balance. Irregardless of what ultimately happens tomorrow, next week, next month, the month after, et cetera, et cetera, he has set up the platform for his own self-destruction. It was an interesting thing because if you think about the former guy and you think about this guy, and there was sort of that attitude that might, makes right. And I can just bully my way through and everybody's just going to bow. And you know who found out that that didn't actually work very well? was, that former guy, because what he found? He found was that a lot of countries, a lot of the world backed away from him and said, no, 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 we're not going to comply. We're not going to just listen to the crazy and swallow it. And that's exactly the same position we find the Russian leader in, because he really thought that taking over Ukraine would sort of be as, mm, I don't want to use the word easy, but as simple, maybe, as taking over, that very southern portion. Because, yeah, there was like, people were yelling and screaming, but when it came right down to it, they've been there for like a really, really, really long time, and nobody's like throwing them out yet. And there is, when I step into his energy, there is a sense of like confusion, like shock, because people are not, countries, their leaders are not towing the line, which is how come he gets testy and now he's threatening Finland. Like, what the heck? What did Finland ever do to Russia? I don't know. I don't know that part of the world history. But what I'm saying is he's lashing out, much the way people, in this part of the world watched a president lash out when he felt that things were slipping away from him. Now, one of the things that I want you to remember is, they talk about um, some of the pundits and analysts. What they're saying is that it is very, very unlikely that Ukraine is going to, despite their amazing efforts, I mean, what a strong and resilient and proud people, um, that they are fighting with every breath they have to save their country, their heritage, their homeland. But people are saying, it's really not, it's going to be a hard thing for Ukraine to actually push them back. Okay. So what they're saying is where the success is going to come, where the actual downfall is going to take place, is after and when there is an insurgency, when the people of Ukraine really, really start pushing back against the puppet government that he wants to install in different parts, of course, of that country. And so that is where you are really going to see, um, I sort of want to say success, if you will. That is where things are going to come together. That is where you're going to get a lot of, resources continuing to flow in. And listen, apparently Germany is now sending, I'm going to get this wrong, some sort of a missile that they had not, or they would not agree to send earlier. And so countries are really, really stepping up, and they're saying, you know what, this guy is absolutely, absolutely dangerous. And, we're all looking at this and we're going, but like, is it enough? And the problem is that Ukraine is not a member of NATO. And I don't know what the history of that is, but one tends to think it had something to do with who threatening, because that's what he does, right? I mean, you got to always remember with this guy that he is a long-term strategist. He does, which is why who was putting in his hands, right? Because the former guy, he just thought of immediate, right? I need this now, give it to me. He's not like that. He thinks very, very long term. But what I think he did not, so what I'm so before I lose my thought, so what I'm saying is the whole, breaking away from NATO, not wanting to be part of NATO, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, trying to weaken NATO, that has been all part of a long-term strategy. Getting who into office was part of a strategy connected to, let's get another superpower on my side. Let's get another superpower saying what I say. And of course, he had an absolutely, willing puppet there. But I think what both of these people with this energy did not take into consideration was the fact that there is some very, very strong, very vibrant energy. And whether that is NATO leaders, whether that is Zelensky, that are simply not going to conform. They are saying, no, what is happening is not right, and we're not going to stand by, and we're going to do everything in our power. And that's why you see this going on. You know, I've talked before about previous civilizations, Lemuria, Atlantis. And kid yourself not, there were other planets that had this sort of same crazy dynamic going on. And none of them were successful. Everything ended up imploding. What is different this time is the sheer volume of light workers. And you know, it's us who say our prayers. It's us who put domes around Russia or around government buildings, whatever it is. But you have to understand that a lot of those light workers are now in very powerful positions. They are world leaders, they are corporate leaders, and you are seeing a shifting dynamic there. Except for some who were light workers and kind of lost their way and fell into the greed pit, but that's a whole nother topic. So this really is a time of, it's a time of choice. It is a time of, are we really prepared as a world to walk away from our more violent, greedy, corrupt history? And are we prepared to move forward to a place that is more light filled, where we celebrate each other, where we honor all of the planet and all of the people within the planet, where we finally come together? I would love to say, yep, we're going to do that. Don't worry about it. It's going to happen in 6 months, 2 days, 42 hours, whatever. It's not. It's a process. And it is a process that we all have to struggle with, and we all have to continue doing the things that we do individually and collectively to continue to move the planet in that direction. And that means, even though it can be really hard, that means that we have to keep our thoughts clear. It means that we need to try to stay in a place. And listen, I'm not minimizing it. It is hard. And I know energetically I've been bombarded for the last several days. And it's hard to keep that sort of equilibrium. But what I'm saying is we have to keep our thoughts on a higher purpose. And we have to work hard at not giving in to sort of rage and anger and I want what I want now because everything is so unjust and everything is so unfair. That is not the force that fights what you're trying to fight. Aggression, going after aggression, creates more aggression. It is about staying in a place where there is a hope, an awareness, a consciousness about moving forward in a way that is a benefit to all of us, where the emotions take higher and higher vibrations, and where those people who bully and who are motivated by greed are minimized by the power of light, of divine light. Now, I don't want to go on too much longer, but these are just sort of a few little bits and bobs that are floating around in my head. So I just want to share them. These would be called, downloads, or, everybody has kind of a different name for them. So this is kind of what I know. Biden's position is going to continue to strengthen. Okay. So even those who are sort of really Republican and kind of, um, they are not going to respond well. They're not liking what they see in that's going on right now with Ukraine. There are those select few who are so deep into pockets that they have no choice but parrot the words that they've basically been paid to parrot. But by and large, what you're going to see is more and more people really, really getting very resistant to what they're seeing is going on in Ukraine and saying this is just so not right, and we're not going to tolerate it. Biden's popularity, his strength is going to continue to increase. Um, NATO is going to step in and do things, activate articles that they have never done before to continue to strengthen and shore up the Ukrainian people and all of those surrounding countries that frankly are now threatened because you've got this guy who really has these grand delusions of wanting to take over the world. He is living not so much in reality these days. He really is in this sort of fanciful place where he wears a gold crown and robes. And, all that he can see is under his control. Um, this is a damaged person. Um, and unfortunately, there is some deterioration there. Okay. But you are going to see other companies and other countries stepping up. At this point, energetically, it feels as if it is not going to be as easy as Russia thought it would be to continue and carry out this invasion. But the bottom line remains is they are so much stronger militarily than the Ukraine. But they are not, even if they take it, they will not hold it. And there is a time that is coming where the countries that are democracies that surround Russia will actually aid the Russian people in creating that new reality for themselves. It's a little ways down the road, but it's there. Please remember, as it's scary and it's frustrating, and then you've got other stuff going on, and it triggers strong emotions, and people are upset about this or angry about that. Please do your level best to try to keep things sort of calm. Keep yourself in a place where you are light filled, where when you get frustrated and scared and angry, that you just slow down and you focus on light and surround yourself with it, send it out. But it's really, really important at this time that everybody sort of try to keep themselves in a level, sort of unstable place. It is very easy to jump on the bandwagon, but sometimes that sort of mob mentality um, does far less good, I think, than we think it does. Okay. So again, this is unusual for me. I don't tend to release videos on this topic in this area on Saturdays, but I'm doing this and I'm putting it out. For those of you who may not have seen already, the Pick Your Crystal video was released this morning. If you want to take a peek at that. I anticipate that unless something really goes crazy, you'll see me again on Tuesday, which is sort of my normal day for releasing videos. Enjoy the weekend. Surround yourself in light. Stay as positive and as high energy as you can. And always remember, worry creates more worry. Hope creates more hope. Until next time, take care and be well.